Hello everybody, my name is Mari-Liis and I welcome you to Tallinna Vesi's webinar to introduce the performance of the first half year of 2014. If you face any technical problems, please don't hesitate to let us know. And yes, indeed, write them on the chat box right into the right corner. Today's webinar is hosted by the Chairman of the Management Board, Carl Brooks, Chief Financial Officer, Riina Käi, and Chief Operations Officer Alexander Timofejev. Riina Käi, Carl Brooks and Alexander Timofejev will introduce the company's performance in the first half year of 2014 and will answer to all of your questions after the presentation. During the presentation, your microphone rights are disabled and we will enable the microphone rights to all participants after the presentations. The questions will be answered on the principle of first come, first served. And I will explain how to activate your microphone after the presentation, but you can also write the questions in the chat box. We will now start the presentation and I will once again turn over the turn to Carl.
Okay, good morning everyone, and apologies for the technical issues we seem to be experiencing. Thank you very much for joining the Q2 2014 webinar today. As the recently appointed CEO of Tallinna Vesi, it's a pleasure to be conducting my first webinar with the Management Board and sharing with you the performance of the company so far this year. Undoubtedly, one of our key challenges remains the ongoing tariff dispute, but equally we must not forget the underlying performance of the business, which remains strong and which continue to provide an excellent service to our customers in Tallinn and some of the surrounding municipalities. I will now provide a reminder on some of the background to the tariff dispute and also give you an update as to some of the legal arguments that we're placing currently. So first of all, just a reminder on the background. AS Tallinna Vesi has been in a court dispute with the Competition Authority since 2011. This dispute arose because the Competition Authority suggested that Parliament use the Anti-Monopoly Bill to amend the wording of justified profitability in the PWSSA, or Public Water Supply and Sewage Act. Prior to November 2010, the wording was to operate with justified profitability. Post-November 2010, it was amended to say to operate with justified profitability on capital invested by the water undertaking. It was noteworthy that the Competition Authority did not choose to amend the wording of the law in the heating sector, which was the other industry that was covered by the Anti-Monopoly Bill. As a consequence of this change, then in the opinion of the Competition Authority, the privatisation of Tallinna Vesi is illegal and was in fact illegal when originally privatised back in 2001. Tallinna Vesi believes this amendment in the law is clearly discriminatory. If there cannot be a meaningful discussion based on the terms and conditions of the privatisation contract, then Tallinna Vesi will contest this discrimination in the local and international courts as necessary. As mentioned before, there are a number of legal routes being taken by the company, and I'll now provide an update on each of those for you. So first of all, an update on the local court case. In May 2012, the District Court ruled the tariff mechanism in Tallinna Vesi's privatisation contract is a public law contract, and as such deserves the full protection of the Estonian legal system. In spite of this ruling, to date the CA refuses to accept that the contract should be binding, and therefore the local court case continues. Current tariffs will remain in place until the courts have made a final ruling on the court case. To date, no court hearing dates have been announced, hence the final decision from the courts could be some time away. On the 2nd of May 2014, Tallinna Vesi submitted a claim against the Competition Authority to the Tallinn Administrative Court to avoid the expiry of monetary claims. Tallinna Vesi is claiming compensation for potential damages of over €90 million for total loss over the lifetime of the international privatisation contract up to its end in 2020. So now I'll provide an update on the European Commission case. Following an investigation, the European Commission has decided that complaints in relation to a new legal framework, i.e. the Anti-Monopoly Bill, introduced by the Republic of Estonia with retroactive effect for tariff setting in the water sector could not be upheld. The European Commission answer was focused only on the internal market, which means whether, in general, member states can have discretion to introduce regulatory changes. The European Commission did not assess the lawfulness with regard to Tallinna Vesi of the application of the amendments made to the Anti-Monopoly Bill adopted in 2010. The European Commission also did not assess or comment upon the water tariffs of ASTV, and I would like to stress that the European Commission was explicit about leaving the legal opinion on the impact on the company for the local courts to decide. I'll now provide an update on international arbitration. After 3 years of intensive effort trying to negotiate a solution, which regretfully so far has not been forthcoming, the Supervisory Council of Tallinna Vesi has decided to give notice of potential international arbitration proceedings against the Republic of Estonia for breaching the undertakings it is required to abide by in bilateral investment treaty, which means the obligation of ensuring the fair and equitable treatment of investments protected by this treaty. Tallinna Vesi requests that the Republic of Estonia complies with its obligations under the treaty. In the event that Estonia is unable or unwilling to do so, Tallinna Vesi reserves the right to commence international arbitration proceedings against Estonia. Further details with respect to the ongoing legal cases can be found within the investors section of the company's website and of course previous stock exchange announcements. Finally, Tallinna Vesi and its shareholders are committed to ensuring the company's returns are reasonable and in accordance with European norms. Since 2001, the real rate of return made from the privatisation is 6.2%, which is comparable with the returns permitted in the UK and the Netherlands. That concludes my update. I'll now hand you over to Alexander, who will provide an update on the operational aspects of the business.
Thank you, Carl, and good morning, everybody. I will now introduce the operational highlights for first 6 months of 2014. Overall, the operational results are very good. The quality of water supplied to our customers remains very high, with almost 100% compliance being achieved against the stipulated standards, based on the 1,472 samples taken during the first 6 months of the year. Only 2 samples showed higher concentration of iron, which after additional network maintenance were resolved. During the first 6 months, there were 68 less water bursts compared to the same period last year, which overall represents a 28% improvement. This also resulted in fewer contacts being made to the IS Tallinna Water customer contact center. The number of customer complaints is 50% improved on previous years, which is a direct result of the improved performance of water and wastewater network. As we already mentioned in our last webinar in the second quarter, we also had problems with heavy metals. Starting from the end of December 2013, the stipulated limits for zinc and copper contained within the final effluent leaving the wastewater treatment works at Paljassaare were reduced by a factor of 400. The company's treatment plant has been constructed to a very high standard and is operating effectively by removing over 70% of these heavy metals, which is consistent with the best practice elsewhere across the European Union. The company is currently working closely with the Estonian Environmental Department to negotiate changes to these limits, and in conjunction with the Tallinn University of Technology have commissioned a survey that demonstrates the impact of zinc and copper on Finnish Bay is not high. We are pleased to announce that a draft permit has been issued by the Environmental Department, which contains achievable levels of zinc and copper for the company. I will now hand you over to Riina, who will take you through the financial results in detail.
Thank you, Alexander, and good morning to everyone. Now, I would like to give you the overview of the financial performance of Tallinna Vesi in the second quarter of 2014. I start with the financial highlights and then will give more detailed overview about sales and costs further on. The general performance of the company has been good. The sales revenues for the second quarter have been in line with the sales in 2013, being behind only 0.9%. Decrease has been driven by the lower sales to the commercial customers and lower stormwater revenues, which is balanced by the higher construction revenues. Cumulatively, there has been an increase in sales by 1.9% or 492,000 euros. Our gross profit has increased by 5.56%, being 0.41 million euros higher than in the second quarter of last year. The biggest impact on the increase comes from the change in pollution tax. Similarly, with the first quarter, we still have problems in meeting new concentration requirements for heavy metals. Despite of that, we had higher pollution tax expense in 2013 in relation to the incident in wastewater treatment plant, during which the plant couldn't treat the high volumes of wastewater coming into the plant, and due to which the company faced extra pollution tax in the second quarter of 2013 in the amount of 0.91 million euros. Cumulatively, our gross profit is ahead of the 2013 result by 1% or 0.15 million euros. The increase in sales have been utilized by elevated pollution tax that has been caused by the change in our water permit in relation to the allowed concentrations for heavy metals. As it has been mentioned together with the first quarter results and by Alexander, the company continues to provide efficient treatment of wastewater. Despite of the highly effective removal process, the company is currently not technically able to meet the new legal limits. These new legal limits are causing problems across the water sector in Estonia. As also mentioned already by Alexander, the draft water permit was released to the achievable concentrations for heavy metals, so we would expect the pollution tax levels to be at a normal level from third quarter onwards in relation to heavy metals. The cumulative effect of the change in the law on the pollution tax is extra 1.2 million euros. Other changes in the production cost reflect the general price increases and difference in volumes. Increase in operating profit in the second quarter in 2014 is related to the change in pollution tax expenses. In the second quarter, as well as cumulatively, our expenses are also impacted by the additional legal and consultation charges in relation to the tariff dispute. Despite of the operating profit for the second quarter being higher compared to the 2013 comparative period by 0.5 million euros, the net profit is behind the second quarter result in 2014 by 0.97 million euros. Net profit has been impacted by higher dividend income tax by 0.2 million euros, as the dividend per share paid in 2014 was increased from 87 cents to 90 cents per share. In addition, the financial income and expenses were highly impacted by the change of the fair value of the swap. In 2013, the change had 1.09 million euros positive impact on expenses, whilst in the second quarter in 2014, the change is negative of 40,000 euros. Apart from the non-monetary impact of the change of fair value of the swap, other financial income is down by 122,000 euros. Interest expenses are lower than last year by 144,000 euros. Cumulatively, the net profit is lower of 2.1 million euros. Eliminating the impact of pollution tax and the fair value change of swap contracts, the net profit was at the low level of 0.2 million euros. Now let's move on to the next slides, and I will comment on the changes of revenues and expenses a bit closer. Let's start from the sales. As mentioned before, the total sales revenues for the second quarter have remained relatively stable, decreasing by 0.9% or 0.12 million euros. Cumulatively, we are above the last year's sales by 0.5 million euros. Total revenues of water and wastewater services were by 101,000 euros or 0.8% lower than in 2013, amounting to 12.40 million euros. We are still operating with the frozen tariffs since 2010, and the increase in revenues is driven by the consumption. There has been an increase in domestic sector and slight decrease in commercial sector. The domestic clients' consumption have increased by 0.5% or 101,000 cubic meters to 6.94 million cubic meters. Apartment blocks give the biggest share of our revenues in domestic sector, contributing 105,000 cubic meters to the increase in volumes in domestic client group. Cumulatively, the consumption of domestic clients have increased by 1.7% or 233,000 cubic meters, and apartment blocks have given 98% of that increase. Sales to commercial customers have decreased by 3.7% to 2.4 million cubic meters in the second quarter, and that mostly comes from the industrial sector. The sales to commercial clients in 2014 is lower by 1.6% or 77,000 cubic meters compared to the 6 month in 2013. Outside area volumes have been highly affected by lower stormwater volumes. Total volumes for the second quarter are down by 13.9% or 264,000 cubic meters. The sales volumes for water and wastewater services are bigger by 6.2% or 67,000 cubic meters for the second quarter. Cumulatively, the volumes are lower by 1% or 29,000 cubic meters. The increase in sales of water and wastewater services has been 9.3% or 171,000 cubic meters, which is balanced by lower stormwater volumes. The increase in the sales from non-regulated business comes mostly from pipeline construction and design services, which has increased by 99,000 euros or 53.2% to 285,000 euros. The profit from construction and design services has increased by 11,000 euros, and cumulatively the construction and design revenues are higher by 131,000 euros or 46%. This now takes us to the overview of costs. The operating costs in the second quarter of 2014 have decreased compared to the second quarter in 2013 by 0.41 million euros or by 5.4%. Cumulatively, there has been an increase by 0.6 million euros or 4.5%. The company's underlying performance in the second quarter has been good. Most of the direct production costs have remained relatively stable. There has been a slight decrease of chemical costs due to the better raw water quality, and also electrical costs are at a lower level than in the first quarter in 2013 due to the low electricity price and lower unit costs, which has a positive impact on our expenses of 0.17 million euros. Positive effects are reduced slightly by increased electricity volumes worth 0.05 million euros. The major impact on our variable costs, gross profit and operating profit, comes from increased pollution tax. That was in detail explained already before. Other costs of goods sold have increased by 0.1 million euros or 2.8%. It is also related to the increased construction works and also higher depreciation costs that comes from additional investments. 13.6% or 0.18 million increase in administration expenses is mostly affected by the increased legal costs related to the tariff dispute. Cumulatively, the direct production costs have increased by 0.35 million euros. The biggest impact comes from the pollution tax that was already mentioned earlier. If we will now move on to cash flows. The cash balance as of 30th of June 2014 stood at 26.6 million euros, forming 13.5% of the total assets. During 6 months of 2014, cash balance has decreased by 5.2 million euros. Compared to the end of the first quarter in 2013, the cash balance has increased by 5.7 million euros. The biggest contributor to the cash flows comes from main operations, which in itself is affected by the change in the current assets and liabilities. The company's cash flows from investing activities have also been positive for past 2 years. In the 6 months of 2014, net cash flows from investing activities resulted in a cash inflow of 1.02 million euros. Compared to the last year's second quarter positive inflow of 0.7 million euros, there has been an increase of 0.31 million euros, mainly due to more money received for the compensation for pipes of 0.79 million euros, mostly related to the sewage extension program that was finished in 2012. The collection for compensation for pipes under this program will continue till March 2015. In the first quarter of 2014, we also have received less interest as last year Tallinna Vesi paid back its loan to the company in full, and the company has not given out any new loans. In May 2014, the company replaced its loan from Nordic Investment Bank with a new loan in the amount of 20 million euros. The cash flows from financing activities were also impacted by the higher dividend payment and partial dividend income tax payment. Now I would like to thank you for your time and attention, and all your questions are welcome now.
Questions are welcome indeed, and you have the opportunity to write them on the chat box, which usually the participants have used quite a lot. But okay, Jonas is already asking. So, is it possible to tell whether the decrease in sales to corporate customers, mostly from the industrial sector, was resulted by a small number of large customers, or was it more broader base decline. Tiina will take it.
It is not related to any single customer. It is just a small decline that mostly happened in June, but in summer period of time, some customers either move from one month to another. Then I can't see much of a problem there. Thank you.
Jonas asks another question. Maybe it was already answered and I missed the answer, but a pollution tax expense in Q2, which was 0.6 million euros, was much lower compared to the expense in first quarter, although both quarters were affected by the high heavy metal normatives. Can you elaborate how the quarter-to-quarter decrease in the expenses was achieved?
Thank you very much for the question. And the difference in the pollution tax is connected with the thing that in the second quarter the company has a problem only with zinc. Copper limits were in order, and that's why company didn't have to pay the pollution tax for copper. At the same time, in the second quarter, the weather was very warm and it was possible to remove from the process more zinc than in the first quarter. And due to that, the weight of the pollution that was discharged to the sea was smaller.
Hopefully it answers the question. Do we have any more questions? Thank you, Jonas. Okay. I will wait for a second. Just in case anybody wants to ask the questions via microphone, I will explain briefly how to activate them. You can activate the microphone as follows. Click on the microphone icon, choose Connect My Audio and click Allow. The microphone is active when the icon is green. And to adjust the volume, please once again click on the microphone, adjust microphone volume. And please mute your microphone while not speaking by clicking on the microphone button. But at the moment it seems quiet. We will wait for another minute, and if we don't have any more questions, you will have the opportunity to send them via email as well. But let's wait for a second. Seems to be quiet today, but thank you for your participation in such a warm and sunny day, and I wish you all a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.